This is Campbell's Biology, Chapter 13, Part 1 on meiosis and sexual reproduction. So we're basically talking about living organisms and how they reproduce in a variety of mechanisms or ways, and how those gametes are produced. So heredity is moving traits from one generation to the next, and variation is that the offspring show differences in their phenotypes, in their appearance, between the parents and other siblings. And then we study these differences, basically, which is called genetics. So parents give genes to their offspring. Genes are the units of heredity. They're segments of DNA that code for polypeptides, for proteins. And each gene in an organism's DNA is located on a certain place on a chromosome. And in every organism of that species, that gene is located at that specific locus. And then these chromosomes are passed down from parents to offspring, one set from mom and one set from dad. If you reproduce asexually, then you can make identical clones of yourself. So prokaryotes like bacteria can do this through binary fission, for example. Or in this case, you have this cactus reproducing through budding, where this piece of the plant will break off and then form its own adult that is identical to the parent. They're all basically mitosis. So sexual reproduction, parents give rise to offspring that are unique from the two parents. And what is described as life cycles here is from one generation to the next in the production of an organism and its sexual history. So if we look at chromosomes in human cells, you have 46 chromosomes from two different sets, so 23 different types of chromosomes, and you have two of each of those for a total of 46. And one group of 23 came from mom, and one group of 23 came from dad. Here we see a picture of those chromosomes being looked at under the microscope. This is called a karyotype. It's a visual representation used by doctors when checking for chromosomal abnormalities pre-birth, so maybe about month 3. Typically, if the mother is 35 or above or at risk for any type of genetic disorder that's believed, they can check the DNA or the chromosomes of the baby, of the embryo while it's in the womb, such as you see here, and look if it's normal. So for example, on this karyotype, if this child had Down syndrome, then we would see a third chromosome here on number 21. That would be due to non-disjunction. And as a result, the parents would be told, your child is likely going to have Down syndrome, and they could make a determination of how they want to proceed. So homologous chromosomes are those two pairs, one from mom, one from dad. They're the same chromosome number, and they carry the same information, the same genes at the different loci. But they very well could be slight variations of the same gene, or alleles, if you like, which is hence it's where we got the whole big A, little a, that type of thing. And we often call these chromosomes autosomes. These are the normal chromosomes, as compared to sex chromosomes, which are distinct from each other, X and Y. Unless you have X and X, then they're the same. XY male, XX female, and these we call sex chromosomes as opposed to the autosomes. A diploid cell has two sets of these chromosomes, so all of your normal cells have, all of your somatic cells, as we call it, have two copies, and 2n equals 46. So they're diploid cells, where n is the number of different chromosomes. So in a sperm cell, for example, n would equal 23. And when a sperm and an egg fuse, you have an n cell and an n cell combining to make a 2n cell. And then you add the two 23s to make 46. So 2n equals 46, or n equals 23, number of different chromosomes. So here we see all the chromosomes have been duplicated during the S phase of the cell cycle. And once duplicated, each chromatid now looks like a chromosome. Okay, and in this case, this would be a Drosophila cell. Here, 2n equals 6. 3 chromosomes came from mom, shown in red, and 3 came from dad, shown in red. So, of course, these two are a homologous pair, these two are a homologous pair, and these two are a homologous pair. And sister chromatids specifically are those right next to one another. And sister chromatids are identical to each other because one is the copy of the other. So we already said sperm and eggs, these gametes are haploid cells, or N cells. They only have one set of chromosomes. and then they get produced at maturity by ovaries or testes through the process of meiosis. And then fertilization occurs when egg and sperm, or ovum, the scientific term, ovum and sperm fuse and they form a zygote, and that zygote is 2N or diploid. And then that zygote will develop through mitotic divisions and cell cycle and cytokinesis and blah, 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 into an adult, many, many copies of cells. So here's that life cycle. Here we have the two haploid gametes. They fertilize together. Here's your diploid zygote, 2N equals 46. Mitosis follows with developmental stages to form adults. Adults then do meiosis to make these gametes once again. Now this is different in some organisms. In animals, this is essentially what we just showed you. 2N cells combine to make a 2N. Then through mitosis, we make a multicellular organism. And then meiosis, we make more gametes. Not all organisms occur like this. As you'll see here in plants and some algae, the life cycle itself includes both diploid and haploid multicellular stages. So there's haploid multicellular components. So here we have N gametes, two of them combined in the same way through fertilization to make a 2N zygote. And then we still have mitosis to make this diploid multicellular adult, which we actually call a sporophyte, although you don't have to know that. And then through meiosis, we make N cells. But here's where the trick occurs in plants and some algae, is that these gametes then will reproduce themselves through mitosis to make many, many, many copies of these. And these are actually called spores. They're essentially the sperm of plants or algae. And then separately in fungi and some protists, similar idea, meiosis still produces haploid cells, and then we still have a haploid multicellular adult. And then the adult in this case is haploid, which is the unusual component. Usually the adult is diploid. And mitosis occurs here to make many gametes. So here you have two gametes combining through fertilization to make a 2N zygote, as you know. Then we have meiosis to make N cells. And then this N cell, this haploid cell, will undergo mitosis to make many copies, and you'll have a haploid multicellular organism. So one copy of all the chromosomes, but it's multicellular, many of them together. And then mitosis again to make these gametes, many, many gametes, and then fertilization occurs. And we'll take a pause on this one.